Hey, Bankless Nation. Today we are talking with Andrew Trudel of Kwenta. Kwenta is an exchange that used to be primarily just a front end for Synthetix, but it is now spinning out into its own organization, its own DAO, its own front end, doing its own exchanging purposes. And in addition to changing or exchanging synthetic synths, it is now integrating with other DeFi money Legos on the Optimism L2 and is now its own self-sufficient organization, intimately tied with Synthetix, but independent nonetheless. So I'm going to let Andrew explain the rest of the details about how how Kwenta came to be its own independent exchange platform, as well as the future vision of Kwenta itself, as well as the hintingly insane amount of surface area there are for contributors or users or stakers or people that just want to participate in the Kwenta exchange to receive the brand new Kwenta token, which I forgot to ask what the ticker symbol is, but I'm going to go ahead and guess that it is Kwent. That's just my guess. So much information is jam-packed into this Meet the Nation episode. So thank you for Andrew for coming on and explaining this new front end, this new exchange infrastructure for DeFi on Optimism Layer 2. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into that conversation. But first, a moment to talk about some of these fantastic sponsors that make this show possible. Bankless is proud to be supported by UNISWAP. UNISWAP is a new paradigm in asset exchange infrastructure. Instead of a cumbersome order book system where trades are matched with other humans, UNISWAP is an autonomous piece of software on Ethereum, which is what Ryan and I call a money robot. No human counterparties or centralized intermediaries, just autonomous code on Ethereum. Input the token you want to sell and receive the token you want to buy. Something brand new in the Uniswap ecosystem is the Uniswap Grants program is now accepting applications for grants. We have been saying this for a while and we'll say it again. DAOs have money and they are in need of labor. If you think that you have something to contribute to the Uniswap DAO, apply for a grant to Uniswap. Just look at the size of the Uniswap treasury. It's almost $3 billion. This mountain of capital is looking for labor. Do you have something of value to contribute to the Uniswap DAO? No matter how big or small your idea is, you can apply for a uni grant at unigrants.org and help steer Uniswap in the direction that you think it should go. That's exactly what we did to get Uniswap to be a sponsor for Bankless, and you can do the same for your project. Thank you, Uniswap, for sponsoring Bankless. The era of proof of stake is upon us. Proof of stake systems like Ethereum, Terra, and Solana allow the industry to move away from the hot, loud, and wasteful proof of work systems and return back to a cottage industry of individual stakers and individual validators. And that is what we need to make this industry stay decentralized. Individuals must play their part in crypto network validation. And that is what LIDO is here to do. LIDO makes staking accessible to everyone at the click of a button. By delegating your stake to LIDO's network of nodes, you can access the yield offered by proof-of-stake systems and claim your share of the network transaction rewards. Do you have 32 ETH and want to stake it to Ethereum, but running a node sounds intimidating? Or maybe you have less than 32 ETH and you need to pool your ETH with others so you can access staking yields. LIDO offers a solution for both. Simply go to lido.fi, choose which assets you want to stake, and deposit them to the LIDO validating network. LIDO is working to make sure proof of stake stays as decentralized as possible, and is committed to decentralizing its own validating network to eventually become a completely permissionless protocol. So if you want to stake your ETH, Terra, or Sol and get liquidity on your stake, go to lido.fi to get started. All right, Bankless Nation, I am here with Andrew Trudel, who is one of the earliest core contributors to the Kwenta project, the Kwenta exchange. And we are going to unpack what Kwenta actually is today here on this Meet the Nation. So Andrew, welcome to the Meet the Nation.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
So let's start with this very basic question. What is Kwenta?
For sure. So Kwenta is a decentralized futures trading platform where we're basically trying to recreate what's possible with the centralized exchange trading experience, but in a completely decentralized manner. So try to take on some of the biggest centralized exchanges with an experience that doesn't compromise any of the centralized components.
And so where would you say is Kwenta's, of all the different like trading products that are out there? There's spot trading, there's derivatives trading. What are the main products that Kwenta brings to the market?
Yeah, for sure. So today it offers spot trading, and it's kind of like where we've taken an entry point into creating the product. But the goal is to basically have our flagship product be futures. So you'll be able to trade with leverage on Kwenta as like its primary function. But yeah, there's, I think, a lot of possibility to expand beyond that from options and shorting is currently available. So yeah, really just trying to mimic what's possible with the centralized exchange, but with a decentralized experience.
So why futures? Why not like perpetuals, leverage, margin, spot trading? Why futures specifically?
Yeah, so it is perpetual futures. I think I just lump them into the same category, but I think that some of the most active markets on centralized exchanges are futures. And I think the most active market in the traditional finance world is trading commodities with futures. So it's probably a really good spearhead to sort of just like give something that's unique. And I think not fully captured in the decentralized market as it is right now. I think you can, trade spot markets for cryptocurrency with UNISWAP, but there's not really like a broader market to go to use, some more decentralized futures available.
So just to get the listeners like mental maps going, we just did a show with Antonio of DYDX, and they are perpetuals, not futures. And so Kwenta is perpetuals futures. So one is like perpetuals of the current spot price, and Kwenta is perpetuals of the futures price, which is the futures are contracts where you agree to pay a particular price at a future time. Is that the right way to explain it?
I think it's going to feel pretty similar to what DYDX has. However, the mechanism's pretty different because we're using Synthetix as a backend. So I would almost say it's a unique product. Like you're going to be under market conditions where it'll be favorable to use Kwenta versus DYDX. Labeling it accurately might be a little tricky, given that it's something a little bit newer, but it's going to feel very similar to what DYDX offers.
And then what are the assets that have the most volume on Kwenta? What assets bring people to trade on Kwenta?
Yeah, so this is the interesting part. Since it's so new, we haven't really been able to see what's possible, and we're not really at the point where it's fully fledged out. So I think we've seen, traditional markets like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and even we have a basket of DeFi tokens called SDeFi that have really taken the front stage. But I think it's something that can expand far beyond that, given that Synthetix is known for being able to bring in assets that are outside of the cryptocurrency ecosystem. And that's really attractive to us because that means that we could potentially tackle a market that's beyond just cryptocurrency with futures in a decentralized manner. So it's pretty exciting.
And this is one of the advantages of being built on Synthetix, right? Synthetix, famously a synthetic asset platform. There's so many assets out there in the world. Tokenizing real world assets and getting them onto Ethereum is difficult. It's very cumbersome. It's legally complex and perhaps legally impossible in a compliant manner. But synthetic assets are kind of this neat little workaround where if you just have an oracle, you can just make a token be priced in alignment with an external asset, right? So Synthetix famously has like oil and gold. You aren't actually trading like real world barrels of oil anywhere or real world gold anywhere. You're just trading a synthetic asset that tracks that same price. And so Kwenta is like a front end for Synthetix. Can you maybe elaborate on the relationship between Kwenta and Synthetix?
Sure. So originally there was Synthetix Exchange, and Synthetix Exchange was just the front end for Synthetix. But we realized that people were sort of confusing Synthetix, the protocol, with Synthetix, the exchange. So we decided to split out the branding. And we worked with the community and came up with the name Kwenta and came up with separate branding. And then Kwenta was basically what Synthetix Exchange was just like a portal to trade synthetic assets that was built on top of Synthetix. But the problem was that it was a little too successful. So we saw other projects building with Synthetix, and there was, attention, being directed in a whole bunch of different directions. But Kwenta itself got the short end of the stick a little bit because it was, getting taken away from the resources that we need to develop on Kwenta. So it made sense to basically split out Kwenta. It's an own independent project, and then sort of enable its community to direct where it could go. But having the Synthetix trading module, whether that's synths or shorting or futures, be sort of its flagship entry point into the market and its core advantage, honestly, over the market. So now that we have this, sort of new protocol that's slowly coming to life, it enables us to like have our own core contributors, have our own community dedicated to like marketing, and really sort of ramp up what was possible with Kwenta. For me, I'm just another member of the community, but I hope to see Kwenta become a abstraction layer for DeFi. So I think it's really admirable what like Zapper has done, where they've just made it so easy to like track what's going on. But I haven't really seen an interface where it makes using all the different pieces together really simple. So that's more where we tap into the trading hub experience, where we can rival centralized exchanges. So taking in pieces like LIDO, which deals with, traditional options like puts and calls, and then taking futures from Synthetix, and then using Kwenta in the middle to like abstract those two protocols and make it very easy to access and use them, and then potentially even combine them to create positions that would otherwise be impossible, because it's all composable. And that's the real advantage of the Synthetix ecosystem, is everything can interact with everything. So it's really just this abstraction layer where it's going to make it very easy to access all these, fantastic financial products being built in a single place. Yeah.
So just to recap, just to make sure I'm following, Synthetix is a synthetic asset generation protocol. Its one job is to make synthetic assets, but no?
I would disagree a little bit. So the way I view Synthetix is that it's a derivatives liquidity protocol, which is, I guess, a little bit of wordplay, but for me, it's almost like a liquidity sandbox. You've just got this huge amount of staked Synthetix that in turn, basically collateralizes SUSD. So you can really do anything with that pool of collateral. It could be, options, futures. It doesn't just have to be synthetic assets, but synthetic assets is obviously one of the major benefits, but it's liquidity. It's available liquidity for decentralized protocols to play with. So yeah.
Okay. So it's a liquidity protocol. My semantics was wrong, but my point will still stand. It's a liquidity protocol. And in order for people to take advantage of that liquidity protocol, they needed a trading platform, which is where the Synthetix exchange came from, because they needed to create their own infrastructure so people could use the actual liquidity protocol. But it sounds like it split the attention of the Synthetix contributors between the people that actually wanted to build out the liquidity protocol Synthetix and also the trading platform, which was the Synthetix exchange. So it sounds like it's a victim of its own success. It's actually needed to split attention and divide the community so that the people that care about the exchange can build the exchange, and the people that care about the Synthetix liquidity protocol can build on that. Is that kind of how these two things have become separate?
When you're a Synthetix core contributor, your top priority is Synthetix. So I think it's tough to go justify tweaking a front end that's different branding, different community even. So it makes so much more sense to take the people who cared most about Kwenta and focus on that, and then take the people who are, crushing it in the Synthetix ecosystem and let them run with what they're already doing. So it really just creates some modularity to the ecosystem and is a net benefit for everyone.
And the Synthetix community is famously absolutely massive and engaged.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to now kind of split off in the ethos of decentralization, split off the different products into different communities and allow people with their core competencies to focus on what they want to focus on. So let's talk about now. So there's some alignment between Kwenta and Synthetix. Kwenta uses Synthetix as one of the backend protocols, but you also talked about Lyra Exchange as well, which is also on Optimism. And so can you perhaps extrapolate into the future Kwenta's alignment with Synthetix and just overall vision for what it can be? Just you talked about you already a little bit, but I want you to unpack that a little bit more. It's nice to have all these money Legos because you can stitch all these money Legos together. And so is the idea with Kwenta just to offer a bunch of financial exchange products by using many, many other protocols as the backend?
I think that's part of the opportunity. Yeah, it's just really creating a place where people can go and use all these, incredible financial products in one place without needing to jump through all these different loops. And plus, since they're all composable, we can have our own contracts that sort of glue them together and just abstract away a lot of the complexity of interacting with them, giving users a much, much better experience than, trying to jump around all these different protocols to manage individual positions. Which each in their own right are great, but having them together in one place to just observe them would be probably a little bit more simple. And that's part of the value prop. And some of them like Synthetix, there's really no way to go trade synths unless you're on Kwenta. There's really no way to go trade futures on Synthetix unless you're on Kwenta. And that can change in the future because it's composable, but that's really the where we stand today. And it's just the ability to continually adapt and find where the demand is, and then bring in the protocols that I think the community wants to see included. So yeah.
So Kwenta isn't perhaps formally part of Synthetix, but it's more part of Synthetix maybe at the social layer, because all the contributors to Kwenta are also natively Synthetix OGs. Is that right?
Yeah, so that's definitely right. I would also point out that as part of the transition to split out Kwenta, we had to create proposals and requests from the Spartan Council that this is split out. And the Spartan Council members are essentially representatives of the Synthetix community that were like voted in by token holders, and therefore represent the token holders. So they decided that yes, we were going to go and split out, but as part of this, 35% of the token supply of Kwenta was going to make its way back to stakers and Synthetix exchange users that were most active on the platform. So that in turn does offer some alignment to tie the two together. And then, I think there's potentially going to be some other opportunity to expand beyond that to further group the two tokens together. That might not be the right word, but to like further find incentive alignment. So yeah.
Okay, so there is formal on-chain relationships between Kwenta and Synthetix above and beyond just Kwenta using Synthetix to provide synths. So via token holders, right? Via token holders, right? Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the conversation with Andrew thus far. In the second half of the show, we go into what the future version, the maximally successful version of Kwenta will look like, as well as what Optimism offers Kwenta and why Optimism, and what about Optimism Andrew's looking forward to in the future. So the rest of this conversation is coming up next. But first, before we get there, a moment to talk about some of these fantastic sponsors that make this show possible.
GEMINI is the world's most trusted cryptocurrency exchange. I've been a customer of GEMINI since I first got into crypto in 2017, and it's been my main exchange of choice to make my crypto buys and sells. GEMINI is available in all 50 states and in over 50 countries worldwide, and on GEMINI there are markets for over 30 various different crypto assets, including many of the hot DeFi tokens, and it's one of the few exchanges that has liquid DAI markets. GEMINI just launched their Earn program, where you can earn up to 7.4% interest on 26 various crypto assets. If you're tired of paying fees in DeFi, or you don't want to worry about DeFi exploits, but you still want to earn interest on your crypto assets, GEMINI Earn is the product for you. Another product I'm stoked to get my hands on is the GEMINI Crypto Back Credit Card, which gives you 3% cash back on all of your purchases, but paid to you in your preferred crypto asset. When I get my GEMINI credit card, I'm going to make sure that I get my cash back in ETH. So whenever I buy something, I get a little bit of ETH bonus back to me at the same time. You can open up a free account in under 3 minutes at gemini.com/gobankless. And if you trade more than $100 within the first 30 days after sign up, you'll be gifted a free $15 Bitcoin bonus. Check them out at gemini.com/gobankless. The AAVE protocol is a decentralized liquidity protocol on Ethereum, which allows users to supply and borrow certain crypto assets. AAVE version 2 has a ton of cool features that makes using the AAVE protocol even more powerful. With AAVE, you can leverage the full power of DeFi money Legos, yield, and composability all in one application. On AAVE, there are a ton of assets that you can supply to the protocol in order to gain yield, and all of those same assets can also be borrowed from the protocol if you have supplied collateral. Here you can see me borrowing 200 USDC against my portfolio of a number of different DeFi tokens in ETH. I'll choose a variable interest rate because it's a lower rate than the stable interest rate option, but I could choose the stable interest rate option if I wanted to lock in that interest rate in permanently. V2 also features the ability for users to swap collateral without having to withdraw their assets, trade them on Uniswap, and then deposit them back into AAVE. With AAVE, users can do this in one seamless transaction, saving you time and gas costs. Check out the power of AAVE at aave.com. That's AAVE.com.
Okay, so there's a Kwenta token. Talk about the decision to make a Kwenta token, and what is the state of the Kwenta token?
Yeah, so we've just had a successful vote from the Spartan Council to go and split out this protocol. And now that it has to become its own DAO, we need our own coordination mechanism to make sure that everything benefits everyone. So part of that is creating our own incentive structures. And a great way to do that is by having a token. So I've written up a proposal, and we're going to introduce it to the interim council, which is basically a temporary council that we've set up for Kwenta so that the community can make decisions. And these people were voted in by the Spartan Council. So using almost like decentralized governance as a service with Synthetix to formalize all of the processes going on in Kwenta. And part of that, it does include like a tokenomics and how we're going to distribute that amongst stakers, community members, core contributors, and anything else that, treasury as an important piece. So this will initially be a governance token, but I think the community will have the freedom it needs to make it become what they want it to be. Yeah.
So assuming that your proposal gets accepted, could you just illustrate the nature of how the Kwenta token will be distributed and to whom?
Sure. So yeah, that's the interesting part too, is whether it actually gets accepted or not. Because I don't know. I've done some research and I've really, I think, created some strong arguments for the way it'll go. But ultimately, it's up to the council to decide. Also, should say I'm one of the 5 interim council members because I think the incentive alignment makes a lot of sense. So yeah, this would basically, right now, I think we have a model to distribute 30% to the SNX stakers. So that'll have a model that reflects basically people who have, been around for a long time and have supported and continued to offer liquidity that's so valuable for the whole ecosystem. And then we'll have another 5% that goes back to Synthetix Exchange and early Kwenta users while it was under Synthetix management. So that should reflect kind of like almost, I'm not sure if compensation is the right word, but just, creating the alignment, giving the alignment with the community that we think is needed. And then, yeah, we'll have 20% reserved to the treasury so that we can long-term stake it and continue to fund the project, whatever it needs, as well as a growth fund. I think that's another 25% that we'll have. There's a small allotment for core contributors. There's actually partially going back to Synthetix core contributors who helped build it as well. It's only 15%. And then a little bit of investment too. So what we're thinking of doing is having a community raise. So instead of having any sort of centralized conversations, it'll be open to everyone. So we're going to use ALN, which is another Synthetix community project. There's a whole other conversation to have about ALN, but essentially, it's a raising mechanism to fund projects. So yeah, that kind of is the rough breakout. I'm not sure if I missed any percentages there, but yeah, that's roughly how it breaks down.
That seem to all kind of be lumped under the category of aligning incentives behind the people that you need to help build out this Kwenta thing. But also, is there a strategy to using the token to incentivize just customer acquisition or just usage of Kwenta?
Yeah, so we've baked that directly into the staking model. So that's the initial supply that we're giving out, which in my proposal is 313,373. And it will, sort of create the groundwork for people to stake if they should choose to. And then we'll have a pretty aggressive staking model that's going to start quite high with inflation and then taper out to 1% indefinitely after 4 years. So I think it's going to start as high as 60% in the current proposal, which would make the total supply essentially double or triple over the next 4 years and then ultimately plateau at 1%. And the idea is that the people who use Kwenta should end up being the people that are most rewarded. So there will be an extremely high incentive for people who are active futures traders to be Kwenta stakers, and then they'll have the proper incentive to make decisions about how they can actually influence Kwenta. And the unique part about Kwenta and this whole decentralized DAO process that we've taken here is that when you see a problem with a product that you're like, oh, wow, I really wish I could change this. Kwenta will have all the faculties to basically have that community member come in and say, I really want to change this, and for it to go and get changed on the spot. And then for them to actually be rewarded for making that, change brought to the community. So it's really focused on making sure that the users of the product are adequately incentivized to see the product be successful. And that creates a right feedback loop to get all the right information and development done on Kwenta so that it can actually be very successful for other people who are also going to want to be traders in the decentralized world. So it's very carefully thought out to align all the incentives of the right parties to make sure that they're making decisions and then enabling those people to actually have an impact very easily on the protocol for what it can do.
That seems to be the right choice. I've always thought that the bullish, the DAOs that will see success are the DAOs that figure out how to lower the barriers of contribution to an absolute minimum. It's if you have a good idea and all you have to do is voice that good idea, and that starts a cascade of processes that result in change. That's the optimum method.
Yep, 100%. I think the community is the most powerful part about Synthetix, right? Just seeing how that took off from, a group of people who are really excited about DeFi to basically being a governance system where it's almost got a mini government framework to it, right? Seeing that project, process evolve and into what it is today, where it's successful, and it's continuing to adapt the protocol, and it's evolving and growing, and there's a V3 coming down that's going to be huge, and like there's a lot of excitement to be had with those things. I think it makes sense to take all the things that work really well for Synthetix and even projects like Yearn, where I think they have really good incentive alignment for people to come in and make new things for Yearn, and just pick and choose those pieces and then kind of mold it into a DAO that's unique in its own right, and focused on customers. It's a little less so about the protocol, a little more so about the user experience. And centralizing a front end has had its own challenges, but we've, I think, come to a solution for how we're going to make sure that it is truly decentralized. We won't be hosting it, kind of thing. So yeah, there's a whole process there. Yeah.
To talk more about the technical details behind Kwenta, it's on Optimism. Can you talk about why Optimism and what it's been like to build there?
Yeah, so we've always been really excited about Optimism because it's, I think, got a really good team. The team is fantastic. We really believe in the team. But then also they've really thought through the security hurdles that would come with a layer 2. And we kind of felt really confident that they were making the right decisions when making layer 2. And the net benefit for traders on Kwenta is that the transaction fees, which are enormous on layer 1, will be very, very low, if not like, negligible in some cases. So that's fantastic. And then the speed of the transaction is also about, I want to say 50 times faster, but I don't want to eat my own words, but it's extremely fast. Like you're just basically ripping through transactions now. So if we've sort of used that model now to like build an entire protocol and like a group of DeFi Lego pieces fitting together, like it really enables us to kind of expand what was possible that we would have otherwise made compromises on layer 1, because you wouldn't have been able to execute the contract that checked everything and then, made it all simple. So instead, now we can afford to like make some of those decisions. So it's not only good for users on the front end who are just making quick trades, it's also extremely beneficial on the back end for the development side, because we can make decisions that just otherwise wouldn't have been viable on layer 1. And I think, the Lyra is a fantastic example of that, because options are an extremely complex product, but they've managed to basically use the benefits of layer 2 to like accomplish something that was otherwise just impossible. It would have been too expensive to use on layer 1. So yeah, that's the whole philosophy on being on L2. And that's going to continue. We're going to, potentially have staking only on L2 because that's where all the action is going to be for Kwenta users. And then, a lot of new products may only end up being native to Optimism because it might not make sense to have them on L1. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's an interesting choice when you choose or when Kwenta chooses to not just be a front end for Synthetix, but also to integrate other applications that are also on Optimism and just offering a seamless front end for all of the DeFi exchange activities that you see on Optimism. And I think that if you start to include, not just in Synthetix, but you add Lyra, where does it stop? Like Uniswap V3 is also on Optimism. Will Uniswap V3 be a part of the Kwenta front end? And at that point, where does the conversation stop? Is Kwenta going to be just kind of like the exchange front end for all of the DeFi money Legos that we find on Optimism? Where does this conversation go to?
I think that's an exciting direction to go in. And there's a lot of proposals that need to go through the Kwenta community to make that all happen. But I would agree that, that's something that I think would be a positive direction to go in. Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of like the bull case for Kwenta? Is that if you go on to Optimism, you just like, where do I go to exchange? I go to Kwenta. Is that like the bull case scenario for this?
I like keeping it a little bit broader and saying it's anything in DeFi, because Optimism's probably going to be, I think, where a lot of that lives. But we're cognizant of everything else going on in DeFi too. But for now, I think, we'll be focusing on Optimism for sure.
So Andrew, what is missing with Kwenta? What are the holes that need to be filled, or the voids that are left that you guys still need contributors or just help with?
We still need, there's a lot, because we still have to build out an entire governance framework now, right? So there's going to be a lot of roles. I think one of the most exciting roles that I think is a little bit different from Synthetix and even any other group is there's going to be, we're going to call them product elites. And what they do is basically review designs, test code, and also suggest changes. So essentially what they'll be doing is being the leaders of where the product direction is going to go. And we're hoping that these people will essentially be people who are extremely active in the trading space. They've, already they're already trading daily. They may as well get paid essentially for having their feedback given to a protocol and then using that direction to, change what's happening on the front end and further development. So by rewarding people who are the most vocal and attentive to detail and potentially even got a little bit of like a product bone in their body, we could have several people kind of like owning that. There's I think going to be community development roles, so making sure that stuff that like core contributors are great, but I don't think protocols should be reliant forever on core contributors. So I think there's room for a development DAO, kind of sub DAO within Kwenta, and then same thing for marketing. I think there could be room for people who have that marketing bone, who want to come in and be a part of a protocol, but aren't sure how to exactly do that because it's still a little ambiguous how to exactly participate in a protocol. We want to make sure that all the framework's there so people can come in and like contribute, and then potentially erode any semblance of centralization at all, even knowing it's a fully decentralized right now, but it can feel a little bit like there's people doing things for other people right now. And I think that'll slowly fade away, and you'll start to see more of a community bustle evolving in Kwenta. So a lot of roles available, but keeping involved with the community and just demonstrating, I think where people can be helpful is the very, very useful to us right now.
Andrew, is there any parts about Kwenta that we haven't touched on yet, or questions that I haven't asked that I probably should have?
I think maybe staking. I hadn't really hit that, but basically Kwenta users will be able to stake their Kwenta token. It's going to get inflationary rewards. And then should the opportunity arise for other incentives that could be added into the protocol, that'll have to get added through proposals and all these different things. But it creates the floor to create a productive system, I think. So that's exciting. And then people who have stake tokens will also be the people who can vote. So similar to Synthetix, you have to have stake tokens to be able to vote. And I think that that pretty much covers it.
So Andrew, if we zoom out and go 5-10 years into the future and we see the maximally successful version of Kwenta, what does that look like in your eyes?
I think instead of needing to look at all the different protocols and like what their benefits are, you would probably see a version of Kwenta that enables people to just go to Kwenta and trade because it's capturing the best of what's available. So I think that would probably be the best case, is that people, when they think about trading in DeFi, they're thinking about how, okay, can I access this through Kwenta? Like, is this something that's already available to me? I think that would be really exciting to see.
Fantastic. Andrew, if people who are listening to the show want to learn more, where should they go?
Yeah, so you can go into the Kwenta Discord. There's a great young community. A lot of opportunity is still there to like find your place, and a lot of opportunity to carve out a longer term role in the community that may in turn be something that's incentivized down the road. So that's exciting. And then, following us on Twitter, Kwenta _.
It'll be
IO?
in the show notes. It'll be in the show notes.
Okay. So any of those two places are great. Yeah.
Andrew, one last thing before we go. You guys have a competition coming up. Can you tell us all about that?
Yeah, so Futures is now being rolled out from Synthetix. So people will be able to actually go in and use testnet of Optimism and trade futures positions and compete with others in the space to try and earn some rewards. So we're going to have an official announcement coming out soon where people can basically participate. We have a form where people can go sign up early right now and make sure that they are going to get informed as soon as it comes out. But that'll be a great opportunity to see what Kwenta is capable of and participate a little bit in the DeFi ecosystem. So it's exciting.
And then what are the rewards?
Sure. So these are still being figured out, but we expect to have about 50,000 SUSD in rewards available. It's still in flux a little bit, but I think that's a good floor. And then some other exciting prizes for people who reach the upper echelons of the leaderboard. So that will potentially give you access to gated opportunities in Kwenta. So that's exciting too. So keep an eye out for that.
That is pretty cool. And I'll say this without consulting Andrew first, but it's generally a good idea to have a footprint in DeFi for surface area for things. And so I think a competition on a brand new exchange on layer 2 might be an interesting thing to get your address associated with. No comments from Andrew on that.
No comment, sir.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, thank you for coming to this Meet the Nation episode and introducing Kwenta to the Bankless Nation.
For sure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate that.
Cheers.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, head over to Bankless HQ right now to develop your crypto investing skills and learn how to free yourself from banks and gain your financial independence. We recommend joining our daily newsletter, podcast, and community as a Bankless Premium subscriber to get the most out of your Bankless experience. You'll get access to our market analysis, our alpha leaks, and exclusive content, and even the Bankless token for airdrops, raffles, and unlocks. If you're interested in crypto, the Bankless community is where you want to be. Click the link in the description to become a Bankless Premium subscriber today. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for in-depth interviews with industry leaders, Ask Me Anythings, and weekly roll-ups where we summarize the week in crypto and other fantastic content. Thanks everyone for watching and being on the journey as we build out the Bankless Nation.